Let's talk to Neil O'Brien, Conservative MP for Harborough, Oadby and Wigston. Neil, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you too.
I don't think we can quite hear you. Are we hearing him?
You're not hearing me.
And we'll come back. We'll come back to you.
An issue with the mic, I think.
Sorry, Neil, are you there?
I'm here.
You are. Sorry. Thank you very much. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can hear you now. There's a slight delay on the line. Let's start off first of all with the vote last night. Keir Starmer ordered all of his MPs by a three-line whip to vote against any kind of inquiry. The mood of the nation would suggest that he's completely wrong about that. What have you got to say?
I just thought it was disgraceful. It was depressing watching all these people who've been given a three-line whip traipsing through the lobbies to vote down a national inquiry into this huge scandal. And the worst thing about it is this all started with Oldham Council making a perfectly reasonable request to the government because they don't have the powers to do a local inquiry. They don't have the powers to get to the truth. They can't summon witnesses or get evidence or make people give witnesses under oath. And so they appealed to the government for help for a national inquiry, and the government said no. That's how this all started. And it's a disgrace. We now know there's 40 to 50 places where this grooming gang activity took place. And the government say, oh, there should be local inquiries. But there have been years in which that could have happened. And the truth is that a lot of the time, the local officials were the people who were looking the other way. They were the people who were covering up. You can't expect them to be the people who lead the inquiry into this. In fact, when the government was saying the other night, oh, local inquiries are the answer, in Keighley, one of the places where some of the most horrific stuff happened, they were voting to block a local inquiry. So this will not stand. I mean, the government's line is crumbling. Jess Phillips yesterday was forced to say, oh, look, if victims want a national inquiry, there should be one. But we already know victims do want a national inquiry. Yeah. So look, last night was just the first vote. We will make Labour MPs vote again on this, and hopefully they will eventually do the right thing and listen to victims.
Yeah, I mean, the Labour government at the moment have got a bit of a reputation for being very pig-headed about everything. You know, they could have done everything differently. They didn't have to go after pensioners' fuel allowance straight away this winter. They didn't have to put the VAT on schools in January. They could have waited. But they don't seem to be very keen on changing their minds or admitting that they've got something wrong. Why would he do it on this?
No, I do think Keir Starmer is a proud man, and you've seen that on the winter fuel payments. So, you know, there's no money for winter fuel payments, there's no money to keep bus fares down, we've all got to pay more tax, and yet there's 9 billion quid to pay to have the Chagos Islands taken off of us, our own territory. Yeah. And so it's all about priorities, and with Starmer, he is a proud man, he doesn't like saying he was wrong. On the winter fuel stuff, you know, we know now that there are 800,000 pensioners who are below the government's own poverty line. They're not eligible for pension credit, and yet they're having the winter fuel payment take away from them. And as it gets really cold, those people will be really suffering, and yet the government just cannot, they're so proud, they cannot bring themselves to change their mind. But on the grooming gangs things, we are going to keep pressing and pressing on this, and they can vote again on this, and they can do the right thing, because ultimately the stuff that is now coming out and is finally emerging is horrific, and the more people see of it, they will have a burning sense that justice has got to be done for these girls, because they've waited so long and the government are just blocking and blocking and blocking and deflecting. And it's the same behaviour, by the way, that caused this scandal in the first place. This attempt to block and deflect and turn it all into politics and to worry more about the sensitivities than the victims. It's the same pattern of behaviour that caused this problem in the first place, and I can't believe the government haven't learned a lesson. Yeah,
it is hard to believe. Let me get you just finally on Rachel Reeves. Rachel Reeves going off to China apparently this week. She's being urged not to go because the state of the economy is such that the Treasury has had to step in to halt the mayhem on the markets. I mean, I don't know what the market's going to be doing today. I haven't checked them yet. But, I mean, the borrowing levels now are so high that people are calling them toxic. The markets are plunging, gilt prices are going through the roof. The Chancellor's now facing a £10 billion a year increase in debt interest payments. I mean, a lot of people are saying, forget about Liz Truss, this is far worse.
Yeah, this is appalling. It's not a good sign when the Chancellor has to put out panicky statements to try and calm the markets because everything's melting down. But the truth is, we don't need to get too technical about this. What this really means for you and me is that the government are going to be spending more of your tax money, not on health or education or more police officers, but on servicing debt, because they have blown up the cost of government borrowing with their awful budget, which even the Bank of England, which never says these things, has criticised, which has taken our borrowing costs to the highest since the late 1980s, which has taken the tax burden to a record high, and our debt level to a record high. I mean, it really is a catastrophic budget, which, you know, it's just unravelling every single day. And they've just made, it's the wrong priorities. They can find money for, you know, international human rights wheezers like giving away the Chagos Islands, but they can't find money for the people who are really struggling in this country, like freezing pensioners. It's just the wrong priorities again and again, and a budget that has just tanked our economy and is now going to make us pay even more to get even less. I mean, it really is the chickens coming home to roost from a budget that has just clearly failed.
I think so. She's taking Andrew Bailey with her to China. Maybe they should both just stay there and see if they could wreck the Chinese economy. That was my suggestion earlier. And then we can be left to get on with us.
This is why they spend so much... Yeah, this is why Keir spends so much time out of the country now. He's probably more popular there than he is here.
Very possibly so. Neil O'Brien, thank you very much indeed, Conservative MP for Harborough, Oderby and Wigston. Let me tell you this. Keir Starmer said wealth creation was his #1 mission. Huh? How's that going, Sir Keir?